so sick of arming the world and then sending troops over to destroy the fucking arms. You know what I mean? We keep arming these little countries, then we go and blow the shit out of them. We're like the bullies of the world, you know? We're like Jack Palance in the movie Shane, throwing the pistol at the sheep herder's feet. Pick it up. I don't want to pick it up, mister. You'll shoot me. Pick up the gun. Mister, I don't want no trouble, huh? I just came downtown here to get some Hard Rock candy for my kids, some gingham for my wife. I don't even know what gingham is, but she goes through about 10 rolls a week of that stuff. I ain't looking for no trouble, mister. Pick up the gun. You all saw him. He had a gun.
In some ways, the 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama was no surprise, given the history of relations between these two countries. The United States refused to recognize Panama's independence movement throughout the 1800s. But when the U.S. proposal to build a canal across the isthmus was turned down by Colombia, U.S. policy abruptly changed. In 1903, the United States provided military backup, enabling Panama to secede from Colombia. By doing so, the United States secured the rights to take over the canal project that had been abandoned by the French. In a treaty that was negotiated between the French canal investors and the United States, the Americans were granted sovereign control in perpetuity of a 10-mile wide strip of land they called the Canal Zone. Panamanians were not included in the negotiations, and no Panamanian signed the treaty. The United States immediately placed the Canal Zone under military control.
Teddy Roosevelt was asked by what right he acquired possession of the canal. At least in the honest words of a thief, he said, "I took it." That gives you no right in law, never has, and hopefully never will.
The canal project had a dramatic impact on Panama. The U.S. imported cheap labor from the Caribbean, India, and Asia, changing the racial makeup of the country. Thousands of these workers died, and those who remained lived as part of a new racial underclass.
They created an apartheid system in Panama, a system that was based on racial segregation, where black people could not live in the same homes, where black people could not even use the same water fountain. The Jim Crow law that was practiced in the southern part of the United States was implemented in Panama by the United States government.
After the canal was completed in 1913, the United States continued to expand its military presence and tighten its grip on Panamanian politics. Violent confrontations between Panamanians and the U.S. military grew in the decades that followed. Tensions peaked in 1964 when students tried to exercise Panama's right to fly its flag in the Canal Zone. 21 Panamanians were killed and hundreds were wounded in the confrontation. In 1968, Panama's government was overthrown in a military coup. Omar Torrijos, a colonel in the National Guard, emerged as the new leader of Panama. Although he used repressive measures to consolidate his power, he became immensely popular. Torrijos introduced an unexpected period of social reform that benefited Panama's majority population of blacks, Indians, and mestizos.
It created what some people call a populist reformist process.
Humberto Brown, an administrator at the State University of New York, served as a Panamanian diplomat to the United Nations. He was educated in Panama during the Torrijos period.
Where for first time in Panama, you had a participation of the non-oligarchical people of the nation, where people like myself get opportunity to go to university, get a degree, where the peasants were people from the mestizo, where all the people who were deprived an opportunity for once in our life were playing important roles in our nation.
In 1978, relations between the United States and Panama reached a high point. Jimmy Carter and Omar Torrijos negotiated treaties that abolished the 1903 treaty, establishing a new relationship between the two countries. The Carter-Torrijos treaties required the United States to vacate its military bases and withdraw its troops by the year 2000. Full control of the canal and the canal zone would be turned over to Panama. Although these new treaties were a source of pride for Panamanians, many conservatives in the United States had vehemently opposed them.
The Panama Canal Zone is sovereign United States territory, just as much as Alaska is, as well as the states carved from the Louisiana Purchase. We bought it, we paid for it, and General Torrijos should be told we're going to keep it.
In November 1980, Ronald Reagan defeated Jimmy Carter in a landslide election victory. Eight months later, on the night of July 31st, 1981, Omar Torrijos was killed in a fiery plane crash. The circumstances of the incident are unclear. Authorities said that his plane crashed into the side of a mountain, but witnesses said that the plane exploded in flight. Although his death was officially declared an accident, many suspect that he was assassinated. Some think that Manuel Noriega may have been involved, but many are convinced it was the CIA that was responsible.
I'm quite convinced that the CIA killed Torrijos, and this I know quite well because I work with Torrijos. And
Jose Chuchu Martinez was one of Torrijos' closest aides for many years.
They killed him precisely at the moment they had to kill him, at the moment that Torrijos was having a big influence over Central America, especially among the revolutionary movements. They killed Torrijos because Torrijos represented precisely the political solution of the whole Central American problem.
Waiting in the wings for his chance to take power was Colonel Manuel Noriega, the CIA's primary contact in Panama. Noriega was head of Panama's military intelligence and had a long-standing relationship with the United States. When George Bush became director of the CIA in 1976, under President Ford, he inherited Noriega as a contact. Despite evidence that Noriega was involved in drug trafficking, Bush kept Noriega on the payroll. In fact, he increased Noriega's salary to more than $100,000 a year and eliminated a requirement that intelligence reports on Panama include information on drug trafficking.
Nestled among stately trees in Fort Benning, Georgia, a peaceful campus beckons to our brothers in arms. The School of the Americas. It's a school you should know more about.
La Escuela de América tiene un gran prestigio.
The U.S. Army has trained 58,000 Latin American soldiers at the School of the Americas, all paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. So don't worry about tuition. If you're young, ambitious, foreign, and like to shoot guns, the U.S. Army will fly you from your Latin American home to Fort Benning, Georgia. Why, in just the last year, the School of the Americas welcomed 42 soldiers from Peru, 25 from Venezuela, 146 from Chile, 346 from Colombia, and scores from countries all over Latin America. The school helped them all to focus their abilities, take aim at the future, and say Buenas tardes to a new world order.
The School of the Americas is the United States Army's instrument to further U.S. Army goals in Latin America.
Students at the School of the Americas receive a well-rounded education that includes courses on avoiding booby traps, jumping into water, diplomatic relations, and shooting really big guns. So keep on plugging, soldier. There's plenty of ammo, and it's all free, 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 thanks to the U.S. taxpayer. Graduates return to Latin America better equipped to deal with their enemies, whoever they happen to be. Hola, enemies. Just like these illustrious grads adorning the school's Wall of Fame, who've gone on to neutralize troublemakers, bolster foreign trade and foreign substances, trounce political opponents, and battle unwanted intruders. Some graduates, like General Noriega, have even gone on to work for the CIA, earning thousands in their spare time. This year, another 1,800 graduates from the School of the Americas will charge out and make their marks on the world, turning heads and making headlines, creating a big impression wherever they go, and even catching a few unlucky Americans off guard.
La escuela no es culpable de que los militares vayan más allá de sus deberes o cometan errores.
The School of the Americas, where the soldiers of today become the strongmen of tomorrow. One school that won't get its funding cut.
Fellow citizens, last night I ordered U.S. military forces to Panama. No president takes such action lightly. This morning, I want to tell you what I did and why I did it. The goals of the United States have been to safeguard the lives of Americans, to defend democracy in Panama, to combat drug trafficking, and to protect the integrity of the Panama Canal Treaty. Many attempts have been made to resolve this crisis through diplomacy and negotiation. All were rejected by the dictator of Panama, General Manuel Noriega, an indicted drug trafficker. Last Friday, Noriega declared his military dictatorship to be in a state of war with the United States and publicly threatened the lives of Americans in Panama.